everybody, we're glad you're here with us for Sunday Seconds. We're going to kind of open up the fridge and see what else there is to nibble on as we kind of spend some time together and kind of unpack a little bit of the message from Sunday. So we have a couple questions we're going to talk about, and I'll pass baton. Rich, why don't you kind of ask the questions and we'll go from there.
So the first question I thought we all bounce around is, in light of all the craziness going on in the world right now, whether it be the coronavirus or racial stuff and so much else that's going on, in light of all of that seems to be occupying our time and attention, what does it mean to really keep our eyes focused on eternity?
I'll start. So if you listen to the message, you kind of saw some reaction in me, and you know, what's fun, what you don't see is the conversation we were having earlier about some of that, and some passion and some energy connected to that. And each of us will have some pretty strong opinions probably on one side of the conversation or the other. And so for me, as I start to wrestle through that and process through that, I think for me is recognizing that while I love being an American and the freedoms and privileges that are here, I have to recognize that comes second to issues of my faith. And I need to see that and look at that and process that through the filter of my faith. And that then starts to shape then how I react and respond. So as I look at some things that are taking place internally in me, there's a reaction and there's a response that wants to react to the things that are taking place. And I need to kind of, I think at times, step back and process through that and ask, okay, so what is the eternal view on these things? And the truth of the matter is, whether we shut things down for the coronavirus or keep on going through, that's not going to change eternity a whole lot as far as how I live, but how I process it and how I react to the things that take place do. So I think that's part of that. I'm maybe not answering that as clearly, but I'll throw the baton back to you guys and see what you say before we wrap that up.
I think that was really clear. The reality of the situation, as I see it, is we're always going to have this crazy stuff going on around us. But do we allow ourselves to get so bogged down in it that we lose sight of what our real purpose is? Mm-hmm. And our real purpose is keeping our eyes on eternity. And so whether it's being quarantined for 3.5 months or 6 months or 12 months, whatever it could end up being, does that change my response to the gospel, my responsibility to the gospel and to people? You know, the gospel can go out whether I'm stuck in my house or I'm out on the street. And so it's regardless of what's going on around us, it's really about where are our eyes fixed. And if our eyes are fixed on eternity and we recognize that we're just aliens and strangers kind of meandering through this life, it shouldn't give us a sense of purposelessness, but instead realizing, oh, I'm a stranger here because I have a purpose here, and that is to share the gospel with people and point them to Jesus, and it doesn't matter what's going on.
Yeah, as you say that, think about, so I'm going to pick on the United States right now, functionally the United States. The United States has existed for about 10% of the church's existence.
Yes. Okay,
so when you start to look at around our world and you see the place of the church in our world, it spans culture, it spans government, it spans worldviews. It is lived in the midst of each one of those things in its context. And so I think the real question is, what does it mean for me to live as a Christian? And then I need to look toward eternity, I think, before I start to get wound up and intense about all the stuff that's going on right now. Now, there are things that I think biblically are appropriate for us to be concerned with and to be energized with. We talk about spiritual values, spiritual principles, and how that then trickles into people's lives, people having value and importance and significance, all that kind of stuff. I think there's application, but I think sometimes we have a tendency to get wrapped up into the cultural arguments or the political argument, and we then lose sight of the eternal because we get sidetracked. become passionate down a lane instead of allowing the gospel to speak to how we respond to things.
So to kind of bounce off what Rich was saying, Richard Chin, who's a missionary and author, he was talking about Colossians 1 verses 1 through 3. So if you have been raised with Christ, seek the things above where Christ is seated at the right hand of God. Set your minds on things above, not on earthly things. For you died, and your life is hidden with Christ in God. And he said, imagine you're getting ready to migrate to Japan. You're naturally set your mind on the things of Japan. You might do this by seeking to eat sushi, watch sumo wrestling, and learn Japanese. You think about life in Japan and set your heart in Japanese things. In the same way, we are to set our heart on heavenly things and on the things of Christ. We are to think about where we really are, with Christ in the heavenly realms. So it's all about focus, perspective, what you are reflecting on, meditating on. Is it the stuff here, or is it this is who I am in Christ, and this is where I will be one day in eternity?
Yeah, the truth of the matter is, it doesn't matter what we're going through, does it? I mean, where the gospel is exploding the most is where people are persecuted the most. And so if we think we've got things bad, it's only probably going to get worse. But you know what? More chance for the gospel to shine in the midst of it.
Yeah, and I think we get wrapped up in the things that are happening around us, and we think that has permanence, and it really doesn't. It's transient. As much as it's important to us, it's transient. So,
All right. Hey, we will see you guys on Wednesday.
see ya.